Hi, welcome to FinFlow Podcast, and today we're diving deep into the critical topic of spotting bad hires in a remote workplace. All right, buckle up, because we're about to tackle a challenge that has become, well, a genuine pain point for so many companies and managers navigating the modern work landscape. You know the feeling, right? You've poured energy and resources into finding that perfect candidate. You bring them onto the team full of optimism and excitement about their potential contributions, and then something just feels off.
hmm
In a bustling office environment, those subtle cues, maybe a hesitant body language, a
hmm
shift in tone, a missed opportunity for connection, they often surface pretty quickly. You just kind of sense it.
You do.
But when your team is spread across different locations, sometimes even different time zones, operating largely through screens and chat windows, those vital red flags can become incredibly elusive, really hard to pin down. And yet, allowing a bad hire to linger isn't just a minor inconvenience, it can be absolutely catastrophic. I mean, it erodes team morale, severely impacting productivity, and ultimately hitting your bottom line where it hurts.
It really can. The ripple effect is significant.
So our mission today is to give you a true shortcut, an in-depth understanding of how to identify those crucial warning signs, especially when you can't just pop over to their desk. We're going to equip you with the insights and tools to avoid those costly mistakes and, more importantly, to build and sustain a thriving, engaged, and high-performing remote team.
Indeed. And the core challenge we're exploring, it isn't that the fundamentals of effective hiring has suddenly changed overnight. They haven't really. But rather that the visibility of critical behaviors has been dramatically altered in this virtual environment.
Right. The lens is different.
Exactly. We've observed through countless scenarios just how much easier it is for underlying issues to remain hidden, obscured by the digital barrier. Think about the in-person office. Within a day or two, you often develop an almost instinctive gut feeling about a new hire, their energy, their attitude, how they naturally engage with others.
That sort of ambient information you just absorb.
Precisely. But online, that immediate rich stream of nonverbal information is largely absent. People can, and frankly frequently do, leverage this distance to shield disengagement or other concerning behaviors.
So they can kind of put up a front more easily.
In a way, yes. It raises a crucial question for us. As leaders, managers, and even as colleagues, how do we sharpen our observational skills? How do we learn to pull the thread on those subtle digital indicators before they unravel into significant, deeply entrenched problems? It really requires a different lens, a more intentional approach to understanding human behavior in a remote context.
That's precisely it. So let's dig right into that core problem then. Why is spotting a potentially bad fit so much harder when you're not sharing a physical space?
On the surface, with all our advanced communication tools, Slack, Zoom, everything, you might think it would simplify things, but experience often tells us the opposite.
Well, from a broader perspective, it fundamentally boils down to the absence of what we call incidental observation.
Incidental observation.
Yeah. In a traditional office, you're constantly picking up on countless small pieces of information without even consciously trying. You might walk past someone's desk and notice their demeanor, overhear their tone in a casual hallway chat, observe their body language during a team meeting, or see how they interact at the coffee machine.
Right, just the general vibe.
Exactly. That continuous in-person feedback loop is incredibly rich and allows for rapid, almost subconscious assessment. You can quickly sense if someone is withdrawing, if their attitude is consistently negative, or if they're simply not, gelling with the team's energy.
In a virtual setting, however, that entire layer of ambient information is just gone. Poof.
Yeah.
People can be disengaged, distracted, or even, as we'll explore with some pretty compelling examples later, working other jobs entirely, and you simply won't know unless you're deliberately attuned to specific, often very subtle, digital red flags.
So you have to actively look for things you used to just notice.
Precisely. The ability to hide behind the camera or hide behind the computer allows behaviors that would be immediately apparent in person to go unnoticed for weeks, maybe even months. Things like enthusiasm, proactivity, genuine collaboration, they become much harder to discern early on.
Which are critical for team success.
Absolutely critical. Now, this isn't to say remote workers are inherently less engaged, not at all. But it means leaders need to develop a different, more intentional approach to observation, looking for those little spots, those small signs that signal something might be off.
Like little threads to pull on.
Exactly the idea. Without that heightened intentionality, minor issues can fester, they can grow, and ultimately disrupt the entire team. Think about your own remote team dynamics right now. What everyday behaviors might you easily overlook that you'd instantly pick up on in person? Maybe a lack of contribution in a group chat, a muted presence, or an uncharacteristic quietness that would immediately raise an eyebrow in a physical meeting.
Yeah, that's a good point. It forces a different kind of attention.
It necessitates a profound shift in how we perceive and interpret behavior.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. We're essentially moving from an always-on passive observation mode to a more active investigative one. So, let's dive into our first major red flag. And this one feels incredibly pertinent in our constantly connected world. When a new hire is consistently slow to respond to communications. You'd instinctively think someone eager to make a strong first impression, especially in a new role, would be meticulously prompt, wouldn't you? Like, they'd want to demonstrate their readiness, their engagement, their presence.
You would think so. And what's truly intriguing here is how often this isn't merely about poor time management or just a slight delay. It's often a potent indicator of deeper, sometimes concealed issues or competing priorities.
Okay, so not just disorganized, potentially something more.
Potentially, yes. Our observations and experiences reveal that this seemingly simple behavior rarely stands alone and can be far more telling than it appears on the surface. We've seen numerous instances where a new hire consistently exhibits a significant lag in responding across primary communication platforms, whether it's project management tools like Asana, formal emails, or instant messaging on Slack, the core channel.
The essentials.
Right. To give you a really tight illustration, consider a case we encountered where an individual was hired for a full-time remote role. The responses were consistently sluggish, noticeably slow.
Yeah.
And project progress was clearly being hampered. After weeks of growing concern and some, let's say, subtle investigation pulling that thread, it came to light that this individual had entirely failed to disclose that they were homeschooling 5 young children.
5.
5. A demanding, full-time responsibility in itself, as you can imagine. The reality was, they were effectively dedicating only about 30 minutes a day to their paid role.
30 minutes a day.
30 minutes, spending the rest of their time managing their extensive home life. Their slow responses weren't just a symptom, they were a direct consequence of severe time overcommitment that the employer was completely unaware of.
Unbelievable. So they were trying to juggle 2 full-time jobs, essentially.
Effectively, yes, leading to a profound and undeniable lack of actual work getting done for the paying employer.
That's barely enough time to log in and open a few tabs. It sounds less like a slow responder, more like a ghost employee waiting to happen.
Precisely. And that's not an isolated incident, unfortunately. Another particularly revealing case involved an executive-level hire.
Okay, high level.
Very high level. This person was consistently unresponsive for hours at a time during critical business operations. The team would send urgent messages, needing decisions, and there would just be radio silence, causing significant bottlenecks.
Stressful for the team.
Hugely stressful.
Yeah.
After they were ultimately released from their role, the truth emerged. They were still actively consulting for approximately 8 other companies on the side.
8.
8. This was a direct and significant conflict of interest, demonstrating a profound lack of singular dedication to their primary full-time position.
Wow.
They were essentially moonlighting, using the hours they were paid for by our company to serve other clients, which fundamentally explained why they couldn't respond promptly or engage fully with their main responsibilities.
So this isn't just about a lack of urgency or maybe poor organizational skills. It can potentially be a symptom of a deeper ethical lapse, a lack of commitment, or even outright deception. That's a far more serious concern.
Absolutely. It crosses a line. The implications of this pattern are quite significant. A consistent and unexplained pattern of slow responses can signal a fundamental lack of commitment to the new role itself. It suggests that the inherent desire to make a strong impression, which, let's be honest, is a natural expectation from anyone starting a new job, is noticeably absent.
Yeah, you expect that initial eagerness.
You do. Furthermore, it points to the very real possibility of an individual juggling multiple jobs, like the executive example, or having significant undisclosed personal responsibilities, like the homeschooling parent, that genuinely hinder their full-time engagement. And this is a behavior that is often deliberately concealed in a remote setting because, well, the physical distance makes it significantly easier to hide these competing priorities when you're not physically present.
Right, easier to mask what's really taking up their time.
Much easier. Ultimately, this behavior directly undermines team collaboration, project momentum, and it can breed resentment among colleagues.
Oh, definitely. If you're always waiting on someone.
Exactly. When one team member consistently lags in communication, It creates bottlenecks, disrupts workflows, and forces others to compensate, leading to frustration and even burnout.
So what's the strategy? How do you address it early?
Our recommended strategy here is to proactively emphasize and set crystal clear expectations for response times right from the outset. Day one.
Make it explicit.
Very explicit. This isn't just a casual mention. It should be an integral part of the onboarding process, clearly communicated and reinforced. We expect responses within X hours on Slack during work hours, for example.
Okay.
However, if slow responses persist, despite these clear expectations and despite direct, supportive conversations about it, that's a definitive signal to pull that thread and investigate further. Don't just let it slide.
Got it. Don't ignore the pattern.
Don't ignore it. It's about recognizing that this seemingly minor issue can often be the tip of a much larger, more problematic iceberg. We challenge you, the listener, to reflect. Have you ever found yourself subconsciously making excuses for a new team member's delayed responses? Thinking, oh, maybe they're just busy or they'll catch up.
Yeah, we tend to give the benefit of the doubt initially.
We do. But what might that slowness truly be telling you? Not just about their availability, but about their deeper engagement and commitment with your company. It's often a mirror reflecting their true priorities.
That's a powerful framework for evaluation. It really changes how you look at response times.
Okay, moving on from those individual direct communication issues. Sometimes the most profound signals don't come from a single interaction, but from the collective pulse of the team itself. The vibe, right?
The group dynamic. This brings us to our next crucial red flag. The deafening silence, or maybe subtle murmurs, from their immediate colleagues. In essence, if the team has no good news about a new hire, that's often very bad news indeed. It's like a collective gut feeling that no leader should ignore.
You're absolutely right. From a broader lens, your existing team members are truly invaluable arbiters of both cultural fit and work ethic. They really are.
They're in the trenches with them.
Yeah, exactly. They are the best advocates, or perhaps the most accurate critics, because, unlike a manager who might have a broader, more detached view, they are the ones who have to collaborate with this individual daily. They're sharing tasks, relying on prompt replies, and directly feeling the impact of a new hire's presence, or, critically, their lack of it. So a noticeable absence of positive feedback, or worse, the emergence of negative sentiments, even after a short period, say within the first week or month, is an extremely powerful signal that something is amiss.
So silence isn't golden here.
Definitely not. We encountered a very clear anecdote that illustrates this perfectly. One of our portfolio companies was struggling significantly to accept a new hire. The management team was somewhat in the dark, trying to discern if the person was a good fit for the role and the culture. They just weren't sure.
Okay.
When they were prompted to engage directly with the actual team members who were working with this person day in and day out, the response was incredibly stark and unanimous.
What did they say?
The team revealed, without hesitation, that they can't wait for this person to be gone.
Whoa, that direct.
That's correct. And they expressed strong suspicions that the individual wasn't even genuinely working during their allocated hours, just not present.
Yeah, ouch.
Following this undeniable feedback, the person was subsequently and swiftly let go. It was clear the situation wasn't tenable.
That's incredibly direct feedback. It really underscores how much the team is on the front lines, acting as your first and most accurate line of defense.
Yeah.
They're living the day-to-day reality.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
And the reasoning behind this is quite logical and deeply human. Teammates naturally resent working alongside someone who isn't pulling their weight, forcing them to carry an undue burden.
Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. They certainly don't want to work with someone who they perceive as disengaged or, as we sometimes say, a schmuck who's going to give them all the work.
Right.
Existing team members are uniquely positioned to observe crucial traits like work ethic, initiative, attitude, and collaborative spirit in a way that a manager, especially a remote one, might not be able to from a distance. If a new hire isn't contributing equitably, is disengaged, or exhibits a poor attitude, their peers are the first to notice, the first to feel the impact, and the first to experience the resulting frustration.
So the implications are pretty serious if the team isn't feeling it.
Clear and far-reaching. A lack of positive team feedback often points to issues like disengagement, a poor attitude, inefficiency, a lack of enthusiasm, or a fundamental failure to take initiative. And let's face it, a new hire who doesn't make a good impression on their peers is highly unlikely to succeed long-term. Primarily because successful remote work is built on robust collaboration, mutual support, and shared responsibility. You need that team cohesion.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of feedback, or critically, the absence of any genuinely good feedback, is an exceptionally powerful predictor of retention and success. Based on our observations, a new hire for whom there's no positive team feedback within the first week, well, let's just say it has just never had a workout.
Never worked out. That consistent.
It's a remarkably consistent pattern that signals an immediate mismatch.
So what's the practical takeaway for managers listening?
The strategic imperative here is to actively and systematically solicit feedback from the team about new hires,
Mm-hmm.
particularly from those who will be working most closely with them.
Don't wait for it to bubble up. Ask directly.
Ask directly. Schedule quick check-ins. Ask open-ended questions. How's it going collaborating with new hire? What's working well? Are there any early challenges?
Right.
Do not fall into the trap of assuming silence is golden. In this context, silence often speaks volumes, indicating concerns that aren't being openly voiced to management, maybe out of politeness or fear.
Right. People might hesitate to be the complainer.
Exactly. So we invite you to consider the last time you brought someone new into your team. Did you actively seek feedback from their peers? Or did you primarily rely on your own observations, maybe just manager check-ins? What could you gain, not just in terms of problem detection, but in fostering a culture of accountability and open communication by leveraging your team as early warning detectors? They're your most valuable ground-level sensors for team dynamics and cultural fit.
That's a crucial shift in mindset, moving from just top-down observation to a more integrated, peer-led feedback loop. Very valuable. Now let's unpack another behavioral signal that often sparks debate: the camera off policy in virtual meetings.
Ah, yes, the black squares.
Exactly. Many companies implement it, and some might feel it's a bit authoritarian. But how significant a red flag is it when a new hire routinely ignores it? Is it merely a personal preference, or does it genuinely signal something deeper about their engagement?
This raises an important question about the very nature of engagement and accountability in a remote setting. And we've certainly witnessed companies maintaining a very strict stance on this for compelling reasons. When someone consistently has their camera off, despite a clear, stated, and universally applied company policy, it often signifies far more than just a preference for privacy, or a bad hair day, or even a cluttered background.
Okay.
The approach we've seen work effectively emphasizes a non-negotiable camera on policy for all calls and meetings. This isn't framed as a mere suggestion. It's presented as a foundational expectation designed to foster presence and connection.
It's a part of the culture.
It's explicitly part of the culture. In many organizations, leaders will even personally and respectfully message individuals during a meeting. If their camera is off, a gentle nudge, "Hey, just a reminder, camera on is our standard here."
Okay, a direct reminder.
Yes, and this policy is typically well documented in the employee handbook, communicated clearly during onboarding, and crucially, widely adhered to by the rest of the team. Leadership models it.
Right, everyone's doing it.
Exactly. Now, of course, there are legitimate communicated exceptions. Someone might have a temporary technical issue, their internet's wonky, or maybe something significant came up and they've given advance notice. That's understandable and acceptable.
Life happens.
Life happens. But it's the consistent, uncommunicated non-compliance that becomes the definitive red flag, especially for a new hire trying to integrate. We've seen this play out dramatically. There was one particularly striking anecdote involving a new woman on the team. She showed up to a one-on-one meeting.
Just two people.
Just two people on Zoom. A direct conversation with her camera firmly off. When politely asked to activate her camera, her immediate and only response was, "I just look really bad." This was considered a significant and immediate red flag. Not for her appearance, obviously, but for her unwillingness to engage visually, even in a direct personal interaction, when an expectation was clearly set.
Interesting. And what happened?
The outcome, as you might infer, was that the person did not work out in the role. It was indicative of a broader reluctance to fully participate and connect.
That's a strong reaction to what might seem like a minor point to some, but it clearly points to a deeper issue than just vanity, as you said. I understand the importance of a camera on policy for fostering connection, but some might argue it feels a bit intrusive or even punitive, especially if a new hire is dealing with a less than ideal home setup, maybe roommates, or perhaps they simply value their privacy and their personal space. How do we navigate those legitimate concerns while still upholding the team's critical need for engagement?
That's a fair and important consideration. And the intent, when implemented well, isn't punitive, but rather cultural. It's about cultivating a specific culture of presence and shared experience. The implications of consistent camera-off behavior are substantial, Firstly, it unmistakably signals disengagement from the meeting, the topic, or even the team itself. It just does.
It feels like they're not really there.
Exactly. When a camera is off, individuals can easily become less present or focused. They might be multitasking, checking emails, even walking away, and no one knows. This fundamentally undermines the sense of team presence, connection, and psychological safety that virtual environments already struggle to maintain.
That connection piece is key.
It is. In a remote setting, seeing faces, even virtually, is absolutely crucial for building rapport, interpreting nonverbal cues, smiles, nods, confusion, and ensuring active, engaged participation. Our brains are hardwired for social interaction. The absence of visual cues makes genuine connection much harder. Moreover, breaking a clear, established rule, particularly one communicated from day one, indicates a distinct lack of respect for company culture and expectations. If a new hire is unwilling to comply with such a basic and well-communicated policy, it raises serious questions about their adherence to other, perhaps more critical expectations down the line.
It suggests they might pick and choose which rules apply to them.
Precisely. It suggests a certain level of disregard or a belief that rules don't fully apply to them. The key for organizations is to articulate why the policy exists, focusing on connection, engagement, effective communication, building trust, rather than just stating it as an arbitrary rule.
Explain the rationale.
Exactly. And providing guidance on using virtual backgrounds or tips for managing background or lighting can also mitigate some practical concerns. But fundamentally, if a new hire isn't willing to show their face and engage in a way that fosters team cohesion, it often points to a deeper cultural mismatch or a lack of commitment. Consider for a moment what a sea of black squares truly means for the energy, psychological safety, and collaborative spirit of your virtual meetings. How does requiring cameras on genuinely contribute to a culture of presence, mutual respect, and accountability, fostering an environment where everyone feels seen, heard, and genuinely connected to their teammates? It moves beyond mere optics to the core of virtual team dynamics.
That distinction between the policy itself and its underlying purpose, fostering presence, is crucial. It's about more than just a camera. It's about a cultural commitment to being present with your team. Okay, now prepare yourselves, because here's where some of the stories get truly wild, almost unbelievable, as you mentioned earlier. Our next red flag involves a new hire calling in sick almost immediately after starting, especially under suspicious or highly unusual circumstances. You'd logically expect someone just beginning a new role to be incredibly eager to prove themselves, show up, be reliable, not to immediately vanish or create an immediate issue.
Right. And what's truly compelling here, or perhaps disturbing, is the discernible pattern of early dishonesty, which, as our experiences unequivocally show, can very quickly erode trust and often comes with significant financial implications for the company. This isn't merely about an innocent illness or a stroke of bad luck hitting at an inconvenient time. In these specific red flag cases, it frequently reveals a deeper, more troubling intent or a fundamental lack of integrity from the very outset.
So it's the circumstances around the sickness that raise the flag.
Exactly. The timing, the nature of the request, the lack of transparency. We've encountered several instances of this, ranging from the truly egregious to somewhat less dramatic but still profoundly problematic cases that demand immediate attention. The absolute worst-case scenario we've observed involved a new hire who barely settled in, still navigating their virtual onboarding, mind you.
Still learning names, maybe?
Right. On just their second day of employment, claimed to have contracted a truly debilitating, incredibly serious disease.
Oh, wow. Day 2.
Day 2. The request that immediately followed wasn't for understanding or support, but an immediate demand to liquidate and use all their accumulated sick and vacation time right then and there.
All of it on day 2.
All of it. Alarm bells weren't just ringing, they were blaring like a symphony of sirens. Our HR team, seasoned as they are, immediately recognized this as highly unusual, especially given a company with a robust benefits package. Such a request for immediate, extensive leave after just one day was a huge red flag.
Yeah, that just doesn't sound right.
So when they began the standard verification process carefully, empathetically, following due diligence, it was discovered that the provided doctor's note was a complete fabrication.
No way.
Yes. It detailed a terminal illness that quite literally did not exist in medical science. It was made up.
Unbelievable.
This wasn't a genuine health crisis. It was an elaborate, cynical, and premeditated attempt at medical fraud designed to exploit company benefits for paid leave right from the start. A staggering level of audacious dishonesty.
That's not just a red flag. That's an entire alarm system blaring, lights flashing, and sirens wailing. That level of premeditated deception on day 2 is truly shocking. What did the company do?
Well, needless to say, that individual's employment was terminated immediately. It was clear fraud.
As it should be.
It's an extreme example, but it highlights the potential for audacious dishonesty. Then there's what we might call the best-case scenario of this particular red flag, though it's still far from ideal.
Okay, a less extreme version.
A bit. Another individual called in sick for 3 consecutive days in their very first week. Again, very early.
First week is tough timing.
Right. As it eventually came to light, this wasn't an illness at all, but a pre-planned vacation they had meticulously arranged and then actively lied about during the hiring process. They never mentioned it.
Ah, the undisclosed vacation trick.
Exactly. The fundamental problem here wasn't the vacation itself. They had simply disclosed it up front during interviews. It likely could have been accommodated or rescheduled without issue. Companies are usually flexible if they know in advance.
Sure, transparency helps.
The crucial problem was the deliberate act of dishonesty, which immediately and, frankly, irreparably shattered trust with their new employer and team. This person was ultimately not retained. Not because of the vacation days, but because of the immediate and profound deception that undermined their integrity right out of the gate.
So the lie was the real issue.
The lie was the deal breaker. The implications of this red flag are truly profound. It instantly signals dishonesty and a severe lack of integrity, which are foundational qualities for any successful, trustworthy team member, especially in a remote environment where trust is paramount. It also indicates a lack of genuine commitment to the job, or, as in the fraud case, an outright attempt to exploit company benefits immediately upon joining.
Right, trying to game the system from day 1.
Exactly. This behavior can lead to significant financial costs for the company paying for fraudulent leave or unproductive time, and represents a complete waste of recruitment efforts, onboarding resources, and valuable team time that went into hiring them.
Huge waste.
Huge. We ask you to consider, how does your company thoughtfully balance a supportive sick leave policy, which is essential for employee well-being, with the necessary vigilance when a new hire raises immediate and profound red flags like these? It's a tough balance.
It really is. You want to be supportive, but you can't ignore blatant issues.
Right. And what long-term damage does early dishonesty inflict, not just on an individual's standing, but on a team's trust? How does it ripple through the entire company culture, potentially setting a dangerous precedent that can be incredibly difficult to overcome?
Those examples really underscore the absolute necessity of trust in a remote setting. It's hard enough to build rapport across distance. Starting with a foundation of dishonesty is just a non-starter. Okay, so shifting gears a bit, let's talk about something that might seem superficial on the surface, but actually hold, as you suggested, deep psychological weight in a virtual world: appearance. Our next red flag concerns dressing out of step, meaning consistently looking like you've just rolled out of bed for a professional meeting, even if it's just on screen. It might seem like a minor point to some, but it points to something far deeper, doesn't it?
It often does. This truly raises an important question about the psychology of professionalism and personal presentation, even when you're physically remote. From a broader lens, the argument is quite compelling. Appearance, even for a virtual call, isn't just a superficial detail. It profoundly impacts one's own productivity, focus, and confidence.
How so? Tell me more about that connection.
Well, we believe in what's often called enclothed cognition. It's a fascinating psychological concept. The idea is that the clothes we wear can significantly influence our psychological processes and performance.
So dressing the part actually helps you act the part.
In essence, yes. When you consciously choose to dress in a manner that aligns with your future self, with the professional you aspire to be, even when your primary audience is just your webcam, you're not solely presenting to others. Crucially, you're priming your own brain.
Sending signals to yourself.
Exactly. This mental shift can lead to increased focus, enhanced confidence, and a clearer, healthier delineation between home life and work life, which is incredibly vital for maintaining boundaries and mental clarity in remote settings.
That boundary piece is huge for remote work.
It is. Conversely, consistently slipping into overly casual attire, the pajamas, the unkempt look can subconsciously signal to your brain that it's okay to be less engaged, to multitask, or to let your focus drift. It blurs the lines and can diminish that sense of being at work.
Makes sense.
So, while it's a virtual workplace, there are often still dress code requirements, typically leaning towards business casual. This might mean wearing company-provided branded attire, maybe a simple polo shirt, or just maintaining a generally professional, put-together standard.
So not necessarily a suit and tie, but presentable.
Exactly. The expectation isn't that you're in a three-piece suit, but certainly not sweatpants and a messy bun from rolling out of bed either. What's consistently observed and considered a clear red flag is when new hires show up on their first or second day of work looking like they just rolled out of bed.
Mm.
This includes an unkempt appearance, visibly in sleepwear, or clearly in overly casual attire that wouldn't even be remotely acceptable in a physical office setting.
Yeah, you wouldn't show up to an office in PJs on day one.
You absolutely wouldn't.
It's fascinating how that subconscious connection between how we dress and how we feel, how we perform, translates directly to a remote environment. It's about personal presentation, yes, but maybe more importantly, it's about fostering that internal sense of professionalism, even when you're not physically seen by others in the same way.
Exactly. That's the core of it. The implications of this behavior are quite telling. It often suggests a lack of genuine engagement, a lack of excitement, or a lack of seriousness about the job itself.
Like they don't care enough to make the effort.
Precisely. It implies a belief that there's no one to impress in a virtual setting, which often leads to a laxed attitude towards professional standards across the board, not just clothing. This demonstrates a willingness to do virtually what one would never dare do in a physical office, like joining a key client meeting in pajamas. It just signals a different level of respect for the context. In many successful virtual workplaces, the expectation is that you maintain the same baseline level of professionalism as you would in an in-person office, precisely because it actively contributes to a more focused, motivated, and productive personal state. It helps you. When someone disregards this, especially early on, it can signal a fundamental misunderstanding of the company's culture, a disinterest in embodying that professionalism, or even, frankly, a lack of self-respect for their role and how they show up.
So it's less about judging their fashion sense and more about what their appearance signals about their mindset.
Exactly. It's not about judgment, it's about creating a personal environment conducive to high performance and respecting the professional context. We encourage you to reflect. Does your virtual dress code, or perhaps the lack thereof, truly reflect the professional standards and internal mindset you aim for within your organization?
That's a good question for leaders to ask.
And how might gently encouraging a dress for success mindset, even remotely, genuinely empower your team to feel more confident, more focused, and ultimately more productive, not just for the benefit of others watching, but critically for themselves? It's about setting a standard that supports a robust professional identity and work ethic.
That's a subtle but powerful point about self-perception and motivation. Really interesting. Okay, our final red flag, and this one feels incredibly practical and fundamental for any remote role, is when a new hire doesn't have their essential tech set up before they officially start. What does this tell us? I mean, it seems like a pretty basic, almost non-negotiable expectation for anyone entering a modern remote workspace, right? You need your tools to work.
You do. And what's truly illuminating here is the profound correlation we see between tech preparedness and overall job success, particularly in roles that demand a high degree of autonomy and self-management.
Okay, so it predicts success.
It often does. This raises a critical question about individual initiative and proactive problem solving, especially as we observe such a stark contrast in behavior between high-performing and underperforming hires in this regard. The core issue we identify is a new hire beginning their tenure without basic virtual collaboration tools. The standards like Zoom, maybe Gmail or Outlook, Asana, Slack, Teams, whatever your company uses, properly set up, configured, and understood. And then, crucially, expecting or relying on others to halt their own work to provide fundamental training on these common tools.
Like, how do I share my screen on day one of a critical meeting?
Exactly that kind of thing. We have consistently seen a clear pattern distinguishing effective, successful hires from those who struggle and ultimately don't work out. Good hires, the ones who typically integrate smoothly, stick around, and genuinely thrive, proactively engage with these tools before their first official day.
They prepare beforehand.
Yes. They might invest time in watching how-to videos, exploring tutorials online, there are tons available, or even doing a dry run of the software to ensure they're familiar. They download the apps, log in, check their settings. They demonstrate a strong sense of personal ownership and initiative, making sure they're ready to hit the ground running, minimizing disruption for everyone else.
Right, they take responsibility.
In stark contrast, less effective hires often show up completely unprepared. Their specific behaviors might include being noticeably late to scheduled meetings because they don't know how to use Zoom, or consistently failing to respond to messages with the excuse that, They don't use Slack or haven't figured it out yet,
Even though it's a core tool for the job.
even though it's essential. This isn't just a minor inconvenience. It's a significant foundational indicator of their approach to work and problem solving.
So it really isn't just about technical aptitude, which, as you said, can always be learned. It's more about the underlying attitude towards taking personal responsibility and demonstrating preparedness. It speaks volumes about their approach to independent work.
Exactly. You've hit the nail on the head. The implications of this behavior are quite clear and consequential. This shows a fundamental lack of initiative and self-reliance, both of which are absolutely critical traits for success in autonomous virtual environments.
Because you're not there to look over their shoulder.
Precisely. In a remote setup, managers aren't physically present to oversee every single step, to walk someone through every click. Employees are explicitly expected to be independent problem solvers and self-starters. The expectation that others will pause their own productive work to provide basic, readily available training rather than the new hire taking personal responsibility for their own onboarding and learning is deeply problematic. It shows a lack of resourcefulness.
And respect for colleagues' time.
And respect for colleagues' time, absolutely. It suggests a fundamental misunderstanding of the independence and proactivity required in remote work. You need people who can navigate challenges, figure things out, and leverage readily available resources on their own, especially with common industry standard tools.
Yeah, Google exists for a reason.
Right. Without that proactive approach, it creates an immediate drag on the entire team, requiring others to expend valuable time and energy on basic support, and it sends a strong signal that the individual might not be intrinsically suited for the self-directed nature of virtual employment.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's about readiness and initiative.
Exactly. We encourage you to reflect. How much hand-holding is genuinely too much for a new remote hire? And at what point does it indicate a deeper issue, a lack of that crucial self-starter mentality?
Where's the line?
Where's the line? And what concrete steps can you implement? Maybe pre-boarding checklists, links to tutorials, setting clear expectations before day one to foster a culture where proactive tech readiness is a core expectation, not merely a bonus. Encourage everyone to take immediate ownership of their setup, their learning, and their contribution from day one. It's about cultivating a mindset of readiness.
That's a great practical tip, setting those expectations even before they start.
Yep.
Okay, those 6 red flags, slow responses, no good team news, camera always off, immediate sick calls, dressing out of step, and lack of tech setup provide a really clear roadmap for what to watch out for. But as we discussed, noticing them is only half the battle. Our conversation wouldn't be complete without addressing the crucial next step, the pull the thread strategy you mentioned. It's not just about identifying these signals, it's about what you do immediately after. You've spotted a red flag, now what's your actionable response? How do you handle it?
This is key. What's truly insightful here, and what we've learned from extensive experience, is the unwavering emphasis on immediate, proactive investigation. We've learned that these red flags aren't definitive, unchangeable verdicts on an individual's capabilities or character, not necessarily.
They're indicators, not judgments.
Exactly. Instead, they are urgent calls to action. They are signals to pull that thread before the situation festers and potentially escalates into a full-blown, costly problem for the individual, the team, and the company. The strategy is clear, direct, and ideally empathetic. Upon noticing any of these red flags consistently, you must immediately investigate this situation by engaging directly, openly, and constructively with the new hire.
So don't wait and see if it gets better on its own.
Don't wait. Nip it in the bud, or at least understand it quickly. This means you need to initiate a conversation. Ask specific and direct questions. Genuinely seek to clarify what's truly happening behind the behavior. For example, if someone is consistently slow to respond, you might frame it supportively but directly. Hey, I've noticed it's taking a while to receive responses from you on Project X, and I'm a little concerned it might be impacting our team's momentum. Is there anything happening that's impacting your ability to communicate promptly that I should be aware of?
Okay, open the door for explanation.
Yes. Or if their camera is consistently off, despite the policy, you could say.
Yeah.
We really value the visual connection in our team meetings, and our standard policy is camera on. Is there a specific reason yours has been off lately, or is there something we can perhaps do to help you feel more comfortable turning it on? The primary purpose of these conversations isn't to accuse or to pass immediate judgment. It's to understand the underlying circumstances, to uncover the root cause, and critically, to provide support if it's a genuine solvable issue. Maybe they do have a tech problem. Maybe something is going on at home.
So it's about moving quickly to gather information and get to the root cause rather than allowing assumptions or resentment to build, but doing it with an approach that seeks to understand first.
Yeah.
It's a delicate balance of firmness and empathy.
Precisely that. It is a delicate balance. And what's consistently observed in these thread-pulling conversations is quite revealing. If it is indeed a genuine red flag, meaning if there's a deeper problematic issue at play rather than a temporary explainable circumstance, the individual often doesn't have a good reason for their behavior. They might offer vague excuses, deflect responsibility, become defensive, or simply struggle to provide a coherent or credible explanation.
The lack of a good reason becomes telling in itself.
Exactly. This very lack of a reasonable, transparent explanation often becomes a bigger problem on its own, as it implicitly confirms the initial suspicion and points to a deeper issue of lack of transparency, accountability, or even honesty. It functions as a powerful secondary red flag, reinforcing the initial concern.
Interesting. So the response to the question is as important as the initial behavior.
Very much so. This proactive, investigative approach allows leaders to address potential issues incredibly early in the new hire's tenure, which is crucial. This gives you the opportunity to either provide necessary support or resources if there's a legitimate, rectifiable reason behind the behavior. Maybe they need better equipment or clearer instructions or some flexibility for a short period.
Try to salvage it if possible.
If appropriate and possible, yes. Or, alternatively, it allows you to make timely and informed decisions if the underlying issue is genuinely disruptive, dishonest, or reveals a fundamental mismatch for the role or the company culture. You can act before significant damage is done.
Right, cut losses early if needed.
Exactly. We challenge you to consider, when you approach these investigation conversations, how can you maintain that crucial balance of empathy, I want to understand, and fairness? This standard needs to be met. How do you ensure you get to the true root cause without immediately alienating a potentially salvageable team member while still upholding standards? It's a critical leadership skill for preserving trust and efficiency in a remote environment.
Absolutely. The ability to discern and act on these signals early with that balanced approach is really what separates successful remote team leaders from those constantly battling attrition, missed deadlines, and low morale. So there you have it. 6 crucial red flags for spotting a potentially problematic hire in a remote workplace. Being consistently slow to respond to vital communications. Hearing no genuinely good news from their immediate team members.
That team pulse is key.
Routinely keeping their camera off during virtual meetings, despite policy.
The engagement signal.
Calling in sick almost immediately under suspicious circumstances.
Watch for dishonesty.
Dressing significantly out of step for professional virtual interactions.
Reflects mindset.
And not having their essential tech set up and ready before they even start.
Shows initiative or lack thereof.
And the overarching indispensable strategy is clear. Once you notice any of these signs consistently, do not allow them to fester or be dismissed. Don't make excuses for them indefinitely.
Act quickly.
Pull the thread. Investigate with intent. Seek clarity. It's about being rigorously proactive, protecting your team's precious resources, preserving morale, and safeguarding your company from the costly and corrosive impact of a misaligned hire.
Indeed. And to connect this to the broader landscape of modern work, cultivating and sustaining a thriving remote workforce isn't merely about the initial act of finding talent. That's just the beginning. It's an ongoing, active process of identifying, understanding, and decisively addressing these early warning signs of disengagement, dishonesty, or a fundamental lack of initiative. It's constant vigilance in a supportive way.
Right. It's about maintaining the health of the team.
Exactly. It's about vigilantly preserving the integrity, productivity, and positive culture of your team. This raises, I think, an important final question for you, our listeners, to consider as you move forward.
Okay, leave us with something to think about.
Beyond simply avoiding bad hires, which is obviously important, what might be the unseen compounding advantages for a remote team that successfully cultivates a culture where high autonomy and high integrity individuals naturally thrive because these red flags are so effectively managed?
The positive side effect.
Yes. How might that level of intention and proactive vigilance, that commitment to identifying and addressing issues early, fundamentally transform your team culture? How might it amplify your collective output, reduce friction, and truly elevate the remote work experience for everyone involved, making it a place where top performers want to be and stay?
That's a great question, focusing not just on avoiding the bad, but cultivating the good through this vigilance. Excellent point. Thanks for watching this. See you in the next episode. Like, subscribe, and share.